The school year draws closer, but without much clarity for families and teachers. What is a parent to do? And when winning the primary likely means winning the general election. We'll talk with Lisa McClain, a complete newcomer who seems destined for Congress. Today is Sunday, August 9th, 2020, and this is Flashpoint.
Hi there, welcome to Flashpoint. We've now got the Michigan primary in the rearview mirror. I mean, the vote counting is pretty much done, but now we point our way toward November. No massive tremors from the primary, aside from a glimpse of the heavy lifting required for all of those absentee ballots. But sometimes the primary is the key race, such as the race to replace Paul Mitchell. It's a reliably Republican district, and a political newcomer came on strong to beat the candidate Mitchell had hoped would replace him. We're going to meet Lisa McClain a little bit later on. At the same time, as we point our way to something that is going to pop up much sooner than the November election, the start of the school year. I had a chance to talk to the governor last week about the frustrations being felt by school leaders and teachers all over the state who are finding it impossible to plan without more guidance from the state. She says she understands the frustration, but that she doesn't see how it can be any other way right now, that the virus is such a moving target. Long-term plans feel like an exercise in futility. Well, districts have to make plans, and they are making decisions. But the truth is, the decision-making is mostly going to happen not in boardrooms or school offices. They're going to be made in homes among families who will do what they feel is best for them. How do they go about making that decision? We'll start there today on Flashpoint. All right, I want to start with schools this morning. So much uncertainty facing every stakeholder in this huge component of American life. And joining me to talk about it, our own Paula Tutman here from Local 4, who has been reporting basically 24/7 for the last 2 to 3 months on what schools are going to do. And Jametta Lilly, who is the CEO of the Detroit Parent Network. And Jametta, I want to start with what is becoming increasingly clear, and that is that no matter what Lansing or your local school board or your principal even says, parents are going to decide what happens in this new school year. I'm really curious about what you're hearing right now.
Certainly, Devin, and thank you. It's a joy to be on the program and see if I can kind of share the experiences that parents all over Detroit and metro area are sharing with us. Well, one, the information, while we are blessed as a state to have really clear leadership with Dr. Calhoun, our governor, really at the local level as well, what we're finding is that parents are still struggling trying to balance that out. So what does it mean now for those who maybe a month ago were actually believing that their children could return to school, which for them mean they could return to work?
Yep.
Now they're not so sure, because when we hear the pediatricians and others, we're learning that there are some impacts of COVID on young children and also older children in some ways that are really yet to be understood. The other thing we're hearing, just to share with you, is this craziness around, and I'm saying it's crazy for them, because if my child has to learn via the internet, but I don't really have internet in my home, and my child has not received a computer or there's not enough devices in my home, that becomes another factor. So there's health, there's a digital divide.
Yeah, and Paula, in fact, that's the problem with waiting much longer to come up with a plan. If everybody does have to go back to remote learning, it's not just kids in the inner city, but rural districts, because we know about the rural broadband problem. This is a problem of infrastructure that we needed to be working on a lot sooner than, oh, school starts next week, we need to get you an internet connection.
Absolutely. I mean, if you take a look at the earliest school starts, and so Detroit, for instance, with 51,000 students, their start date is the 31st. So that's, how many days away? Count them on your fingers, basically. And even though they've had great partnerships with private sector, they just got this $23 million investment. They're trying to get devices in the hands of students. That's Detroit. Detroit, interestingly, is very, very well situated right now, I think, to handle some of these digital divide issues, but not completely. And that goes for the rural districts as well. And so if you think about, if you lose 10 or even 20% of students because they don't have access, they don't have digital access, or how about this? How about if their parents do make the hard choice and one can stay home? I don't know about you, but can you do fifth grade math anymore?
Exactly.
And so So whether or not you're able to bridge this digital divide or not, it really is problematic. You cannot rebuild an entire school system in the space of a summer, particularly when you still don't even know what your budget is.
And Jimetta, here's an example of how complicated this gets. I was talking to a parent this past week who was wondering whether they need to change school districts, which she wouldn't do if it was going to be in-person learning, but if it's going to be remote, she thought maybe another district had a better remote approach. Which then changes, I guess, sort of, then you're starting to talk about count day and how money gets dispersed around all this thing. But then what do you do if all of a sudden we are back in school midway through the fall in person and you got to switch back? This gets very complex.
Yeah, it's so complex, and it's so interesting we're having this conversation right now. So, for example, we have a COVID coalition, 313 COVID Coalition for Community and Family. Every week we're doing a town hall, and we have thousands of parents come in, and we're talking with them, and we're sharing, and they're sharing their concerns. So even while we have the health folks giving them that information, the question is, what do I do about school? So one of the other things that's a dilemma is that we know parents will shop. Well, okay, so does River Rouge offer this, or maybe eCourse does this, or maybe Bloomfield does the other? So what we're trying to do, not only Detroit Parent Network, but about a coalition of 40 child and family agencies, along with foundations and along with the districts and charter schools, we're trying to send out some consistent messages that say, here's some things that you need to look at in making that decision. First, we want to make sure that you're safe, that your children will be safe. Yep. Take a look at the return to learning plan, and then make sure that school is responsive in looking at that plan. And if you need some help figuring this stuff out, including the 64-page document that our wonderful public health officials have created, but that's pretty daunting for many parents. And even those parents who have 2 or 3 different degrees, it's not necessarily in that aspect. So, and then we have parents that may be illiterate or certainly not to the level of that document. So Detroit Parent Network and other organizations are coming to the table and calling our parents and say, how can we help you? 1, to make sure that you're okay. 2, that you're thinking and planning to get your child into some engagement and learning, because we no longer have a summer slide. We have the COVID slide.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Paula,
put our children further back.
And Devin, I do want to address that just for a moment, because I want you to think about this for one moment. And so in Michigan, I think the number is between $7,000 and $8,000 per child. They're talking about potentially losing 10% of that. Okay.
Right.
This is why count day is so important. If a parent shops and goes to another district, even if the legislature does give those waivers, you still lose that population. And so when you have parents actually virtually shopping around, it could potentially decimate an entire school district. And when you talk about really under the law, just the idea of equal access to education, that's an idea. And it's a good idea to aspire to. And we know that it's not perfect. Very few things are perfect, right? But it's still an idea to aspire to. But when you actually lose those borders, you lose that physical ability to count those students, and you lose those dollars. You talk about even the idea of equal access to education basically disappearing for urban, for rural schools, for parents who don't have means. And it's very, very disturbing, it's very dangerous, and it's very, very real.
In fact, Jimetta, for the reasons you were just describing, the gaps that exist in our education system, this is intensifying them. Some parents are better prepared for this to work at home. Some parents are going to be able to hire a teacher. We've heard about these some families that have means, creating sort of pods where they hire a teacher to sort of create a different kind of homeschool. I mean, we really are, I'm sorry, I've only got about 30 seconds left here, but we really are in danger of watching those gaps increase and intensify.
Absolutely.
I think really we have to have a lens on educational equity. We have to look at how we fund our schools, and we have to make internet for all also a priority. This is going to cost money, but it's going to take us working both from the grass tops and the community level with parents to come up with solutions. We have to resolve this, or Michigan and our kids are not going to thrive, and we're going to continue to be at the bottom of the nation when it comes to education and workforce development.
No doubt. I so appreciate the conversation with both of you, and I know we're going to stay on it, obviously, as we march toward fall. Thanks so much, both of you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you
bet.
for having this topic.
We'll talk,
Take care,
Paula.
Paula.
Want to quickly mention, don't forget, join me and Paula this Thursday evening, 7 p.m. on Click on Detroit on Education for All Town Hall to talk about more of the issues that we were just describing. Back with more with who seems to be headed to be a new member of Congress, complete political outsider. This is Flashpoint on Local 4.
The sun and high heat can fry your car's paint job. But Maaco can make it look like it never happened. Act now with our paint sales starting at $4.99. Uh-oh, better get Maaco.
These are difficult times. The Detroit Wayne Integrated Health Network is here with hundreds of trained clinicians offering face-to-face help to you through this crisis. Consider downloading the My Strength app, an interactive support tool offering daily encouragement. My Strength will help you with your mental well-being. You are not alone. The Detroit Wayne Integrated Health Network is here to talk, here to help. 800-241-4949.
This year, the largest free jazz festival in the world won't miss a beat. Gretchen Valade says the 2020 Detroit Jazz Fest can't be stopped. Enjoy virtual, live, in-studio performances on TV, on radio, and online. The 41st Annual Detroit Jazz Festival, presented by Rocket Mortgage, coming virtually September 4th through 7th.
The sun and high heat can fry your car's paint job. But Maaco can make it look like it never happened. Act now with our paint sales starting at $4.99. Uh-oh, better get Maaco.
Your voice, your vote. In our democracy, they matter. Make yours count. Get registered, learn the issues, and vote by or on November 3rd. Visit vote411.org. This message is furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
Welcome back. If there was a surprise in Tuesday's primary election, it might have been what happened in the 10th District, an open seat election as Paul Mitchell announced he's leaving Congress, and he urged voters to support Shane Hernandez. Well, then a nasty campaign broke out between Hernandez and Lisa McClain, and when the dust cleared on Wednesday, it was McClain, a political newcomer, still standing. And she joins me for her first visit to Flashpoint. Lisa, first off, congratulations on a big win.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You bet. Tell me a little bit about what you think made the difference here. You really don't have any political experience. Shane Hernandez is known a little bit better in political circles, and he was endorsed by Paul Mitchell, who's leaving office. What do you think made the difference for you?
I think really three things as I took a breath after Tuesday or early Wednesday morning is we had a good strategy. We had a phenomenal amount of support and help. So you can't get to this place, a seat in Congress without a team. And I'm blessed and inspired and happy to say we had a lot of good help on our campaign. And the last thing that we had, I think that helped us get here was we worked hard. So good strategy, team effort, and a lot of hard work.
Well, clearly it was that. You come from a financial services background, started your own company, but then you did spend more than $1 million of your own dollars on this run. And I guess why is it worth it to you to spend that kind of money? And is that, again, a win for money over politics?
Well, I look at it as an investment in myself. I would prefer to invest in myself to do what I think needs to be done in this district to move the district forward. And number two, with my own money and the money that I've raised from the support of the donors in the district, is I'm not beholden to anybody, which I believe I can follow my heart and the mind of the district as opposed to being beholden to any special interest group.
Then let's talk a little bit about that, because in some ways, it was weird to think that some of those ads between you and Shane Hernandez, it was hard to believe that you were both in the same party. It got pretty bitter, but it also became a test over, in some ways, who was more loyal and aligned with President Trump. Characterize for me the job that you think that Donald Trump has done. And since he's fallen now in the polls to a double-digit deficit behind Joe Biden, what are your fellow Michiganders not seeing that you see?
I think at times we get caught up in the packaging and we don't take a good long look at the policies and what people have, especially our president, I believe, have accomplished. And so many times we get personal and we get hung up on the person as opposed to the policies. And I think our president has done a remarkable job with his policies. And that's the biggest reason why I support our president. And from my experience on the campaign trail, there's a lot of support for him out there. I've seen it at the rallies. I've seen it when I've done phone calling, on door knocking. I don't see this big silent majority. I believe people are beginning to come out of the woodwork. And at times when things get nasty and things get to crunch time, we focus so much on the person and we personalize things and we attack things as opposed to spend our time, effort, and energy on the policies. And I think his policies are good and they show.
Let's talk about one of those policies. This district, should you defeat your Democratic opponent in November, you would be representing a district that is very largely, heavily agricultural. All those farms up in the thumb. My family farms soybeans in southern Illinois, and the president's trade policies have pretty much devastated the soybean market. I'm curious as to if you had a chance to sit down with the president on behalf of the farmers that you would be now representing. What would you tell him about those trade policies on behalf of the farmers that you would be representing?
I believe it's important for Americans, whether it's in farming or any other facet of business, that our policies need to be fair and equitable for us. And I think that's what we really need to focus on, because the farmers that I've met are good, true, loyal people, and all they ask for is a fair shake. And I believe what the president needs to do is make sure that we have a level playing field, get some of the regulation out of the way so that the farmers can do what they do best, and that is farm. And not only for the United States, but really for the world. And we need to focus on letting the farmers be able to do their job and do it well, but create a playing field that is a level playing field.
Most of the farmers I know would rather be farming than taking any sort of subsidy check.
100%.
From the government, no
Absolutely.
doubt about it. What would you characterize as you've got an opportunity that few people get to come out of sort of a regular walk of life and walk into the nation's capital? What's your first order of business?
I think my first order of business is to get the economy back up and running. Because if you have a strong economy,
how do we do that in the pandemic?
I'm sorry?
How do we do that in the middle of the pandemic?
Well, I think we can, and I think we've shown that we're able to do that. So when we talk about this pandemic, I respect the coronavirus. There's no question. But I do not fear the coronavirus. And I believe in people, and I believe in businesses, and I believe in individual rights and individual liberties, where given people those choices, I believe people will be innovative, and I believe that they will, in a whole, do the right thing. So again, I respect the coronavirus, but I don't fear it. And as Americans, we don't need to fear it.
Lisa, really, we got to leave it there. I got to get to a quick break, but really good to talk to you. I know we'll talk to you more as we head toward the November election. Congratulations again, and thanks for spending time today with us.
Thank you so much. Have a nice day.
You too. We'll be back with more to talk a little bit more about politics. This is Flashpoint on Local 4.
For Michigan's future, DTE is all in. So we're giving masks to frontline workers and small businesses, meals and shelter to families, and tablets to children learning at home. Because DTE is all in. For you, DTE.
It's big, really big. It's the indoor tent sale at Gardner White. Save up to 80% store-wide with free same-day delivery, free HP laptops, free AirPods. Get them while they last. Everything, and we mean everything, tent sale priced. Plus, take an extra 20% off, plus 0% financing for 20 months. Or get 0% financing for 60 months. The indoor tent sale at Gardner White, Detroit's new #1 furniture store. Sunday, 11 to 8.
There are more than 1,000 reasons to check out Wayne County Community College District online. New online classes and programs, online student services, financial aid and advising, and a bookstore that delivers to your doorstep. It's a new day and a new way at WCCCD. Register for summer and fall now.
Recruit specialized staffing has immediate positions available right now in manufacturing, distribution, administrative, and more. Apply in person or remotely today. Great pay, great benefits, and a great future is waiting for you at Recruit Specialized Staffing.
Off of our chat with Lisa McClain, let's talk about the rest of the political week now with Stephen Henderson from Detroit Today at WDET and Nolan Finley from the Detroit News. Guys, thanks very much for the time. Nolan, let me start with you. What was your takeaway from what happened in the primary, aside from how long it took us to count the votes?
Well, tremendous turnout, right? And, you know, it seemed like mail-in voting worked. We're in an era where it's going to take longer to count votes. If people are now going to vote by mail, and I think this is a change that'll persist long after COVID disappears, we've got to get used to not having the instant gratification on election night. Instead of tuning into at 11 to get the results, we might have to wait for Rhonda in the morning to know what happened.
Exactly. Or I'm going to have to change my shift. Stephen, what were your thoughts about what we saw?
So I was also struck by the turnout. I think, and we've seen that already earlier this year. I think that says the November elections, we're going to see really, really high voting, and that does not necessarily bode well for the President of the United States, whose strategy, I think, is to make sure that people don't vote, that more people don't vote. The other thing that I really took away from the election was the win by Rashida Tlaib in her congressional district. Brenda Jones, Detroit City Council president, I think had as good a shot as anybody did, given the demographics of that district and the fact that she was the only other candidate running against. She got beat 2-1. That says a lot about that district. It also says a lot about Rashida Tlaib and the job that she has done endearing herself to the constituents who live there.
Really true, Nolan, because I think conventional wisdom was that if there hadn't been such a big field of candidates, Brenda Jones would have been able to win that seat the last time around.
Yeah, and that was 2 years ago. I agree with Steve up to a point, but I'm right in today's column that this is going to be a very hard year for challengers to unseat incumbents. COVID-19 has just turned campaigning upside down. Incumbents have the advantage of an established fundraising network, good voter list already in place, an organization already in place. I don't think you're going to see many incumbents turned out in the fall election.
Is it too much to ask of the legislature? Jocelyn Benson, to get back to the mail-in voting, really would like to be able to at least open these ballots as they arrive to see whether or not they're a spoiled ballot, one that should be counted on Election Day. Couldn't we get our election workers a head start, or should we wait to open them until Election Day? Nolan, you first.
I think you need processes in place to do that. I mean, you don't want to have a situation where the results start leaking out at 10 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock in the afternoon and impact voter turnout and the way people vote. I think you need security processes in place, safeguards. We don't have that yet. And would it be a good idea if they acted to start putting those things in place? Yeah, but it's not going to happen by November.
Stephen?
Yeah, I think you absolutely have to make it so that ballots that arrive on Election Day or that are postmarked on Election Day are counted. I think the idea of disenfranchising people because of the mail, that really worries me. And in a state where you're going to have heavy voting, we're talking about a lot of people whose votes would not count. I don't think that makes any sense.
Not so much a matter of counting them early, but at least maybe open them to prepare them for the count. The last thing I wanted to make sure we got to, the governor this week in her declaration that racism is a public health crisis. Nolan, it didn't take very long at all for me to hear from white Michiganders who took that, when she said that everybody has a bias, they took that as being told that they were inherently racist. Is that the way you heard that?
Well, I don't know how anybody, why that would surprise anybody. I mean, I think that's been the message. My concern about this order, I think its goals are good, and clearly racism does affect public health. We saw that during the COVID crisis. I'm just reluctant for her to seize any more emergency power or crisis power, given how she's used it unilaterally so far, the power she's had. I mean, is she going to use this to put new policies in place that should go through the legislature? I think we have to wait and see how she uses this public health crisis declaration before we judge it one way or the other.
Stephen, I've got less than a minute left. Your thoughts on this? There are some actionables here, but to some people this is kind of like declaring war on poverty. That it's sort of one of those really difficult things to shape, even though it sounds good rhetorically.
Yeah, I think you got to watch real closely for what comes out of this, what changes in the lives of Black and brown people in this state because of this. It's great to have this council formed who'll have the governor's ear, and hopefully we'll have the legislature's ear, but we need them to change policy. And, I don't know that that's going to be done by executive order. I think it will be done through the legislature, but elevating it to this point and making clear that this is a public health crisis for the state is huge and has been a long time coming. And I think she deserves a lot of credit for taking that step.
Guys, always great to talk to you. Thanks so much for the time, and we'll see you next on a future episode of Flashpoint. Thanks. Thank you so much for being here as well. Meet the Press coming up next. Have a great week. We'll see you next time on Flashpoint.